We begin the news where U.S. President Donald Trump says he was unable to arrange a meeting with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un during his visit to South Korea, ending days of speculation over a possible summit. Trump had earlier said he would meet or love to meet Kim during his Asian tour, which would have been their first encounter since his previous term in office. North Korea has not publicly responded to the invitation. Just hours before Trump's arrival in Seoul, Pyongyang test-fired cruise missiles off its western coast in what it described as a warning to its enemies. Trump told reporters that he hopes to straighten out tensions between the two Koreas after talks with South Korean President Lee Jae-myung.
I know Kim Jong-un very well. We get along very well. We really weren't able to work out timing. We have President Xi is coming tomorrow, and that was something that obviously is very important to the world, to all of us. You'll be watching very carefully. We're meeting right here, and we're all looking forward to that. I think it's going to work out very, very well for everybody, and I look forward to seeing him. But I will say this, that the Korean Peninsula, and I know you are officially at war, but we will see what we can do to get that all straightened out.
Dutch voters are casting their ballots in a knife-edge snap election triggered after far-right lawmaker Geert Wilders toppled the ruling coalition over migration policy. The campaign has centered on how to manage immigration and fix the nation's chronic housing shortages. Prime Minister Dick Schoof urged citizens to turn out in large numbers, calling the vote an important moment in the Netherlands' history.
If you accept this job, you know that it will end someday, due to the withdrawal of the party of Geert Wilders, we had to write out elections. Today are elections, so it's a rightful decision now, and I'm hoping that everybody is going to vote in the Netherlands, and in that way they can also influence the new cabinet and the new prime minister. It's intensive, it costs a lot of energy, but you also get a lot back, and it's an important job for the Netherlands as well. I think at 9 o'clock we have the first result and the projection of the result, and that will be an important moment for the history of Netherlands anyway, whatever the result.
Away from that, far-right leader Geert Wilders, whose Party for Freedom won big 2 years ago, also cast his vote in The Hague. Polls suggest Wilders is locked in a tight race with 3 other major parties.
Well, you know, the voters are in charge. The bigger we will become, the more easier that will be. But today it's voting day, tomorrow it's competition day, so we will see. But I hope it will be a good outcome.
Indonesia's President Prabowo Subianto has overseen the destruction of more than 2 tons of illegal drugs valued at $1.76 billion, part of a year-long crackdown on narcotics trafficking. Authorities say the seizures, totaling over 214 tons since October 2024, include large quantities of marijuana, methamphetamine, and synthetic tobacco.
Oktober 24 sampai Oktober 25. Yang berhasil mereka sita rebut adalah 214,84 ton, yang nilai uangnya adalah 29,37 triliun rupiah. Dan bila tidak berhasil mereka cegah atau mereka sita, mereka tangkap, itu bisa digunakan oleh 629 juta manusia.
Away from that, Israel says it will continue to observe a ceasefire in Gaza a day after airstrikes killed more than 100 Palestinians, according to health officials in the enclave. Now, the Israeli military said it launched the strikes in response to an attack by Palestinian militants that killed 1 Israeli soldier. Residents in Gaza City say several homes were destroyed overnight, leaving women and children among the victims.
والله في الليل بالساعة 11 إلا ربع تقريبا سمعنا صوت انفجارين قويات يعني، وكل الدنيا امتلت غبرة وردم ودورنا تبهدلت، والناس اللي جيراننا كلهم استشهدوا، أطفال ونسوان، وحتى يعني لسه هينا للفجر قاعدين بطلعوا فيهم لسه من تحت شو اسمه الردم.
صحيح، في هذه الليلة الماضية تم استهداف منزل لعائلة موسى هنا في وسط مدينة غزة، وسط شارع الجلاء، دون سابق انذار. هذا الاستهداف أدى إلى عدد من الشهداء حتى اللحظة على مدار طوال هذه الليلة، ونحن ننتشل منهم شهداء ومفقودين من تحت الأنقاض.
And finally, we turn our attention to the United States, where a fresh political storm is brewing, and it's one that sounds familiar to many African democracies. Congressman Seth Moulton, aged 46, has launched a primary challenge against veteran Senator Ed Markey, aged 79, calling for generational change within the Democratic Party. In his campaign message, Moulton accuses his party of clinging to the status quo and insists that it's time for new energy and new ideas. Markey, who has been in Congress for nearly half a century, counters that it is not your age that matters, but the age of your ideas.
Crisis. And with everything we learned last election, I just don't believe Senator Markey should be running for another 6-year term at 80 years old. Even more, I don't think someone who's been in Congress for half a century is the right person to meet this moment and win the future. Senator Markey's a good man, but it's time for a new generation of leadership. Real people across Massachusetts are being hurt by Democratic leaders refusing to do everything they can to win. We've got to look in the mirror and be honest. It's time for change. After fighting all day and all night in that cemetery without food or water, we finally stopped our advance, and I sat down for 5 minutes. When I got back up to check the lines, I found a 19-year-old Marine who'd been shot and killed. But I've often thought, if I'd just found him a few minutes earlier, at least he wouldn't have died alone. That's not a war story. It's a lesson. That's why I won't wait to help people who need help right now. It's why I won't wait to do the hard thing and call out what's not working in our own party. And it's why we can't wait to protect our families from Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans. We can win the future we all deserve if we do it now.
Well, the race is shaping up as more than a contest for one Senate seat. It's a reflection of a wider political dilemma: how to balance experience with renewal and how age and ideology intersect in modern politics. Joining us live to discuss this is global policy analyst Alexander von Rugen. Thank you so much, Alexander, for joining us at this time.
Good afternoon.
It's a pleasure. Now, Congressman Moulton says the Democratic Party has clung to the status quo. Is this challenge to Senator Markey more about generational renewal or a deeper ideological shift in how politics should evolve?
Well, both of their platforms are very democratic, although Moulton is a veteran. I might add, after 4 tours of Iraq, he was a committed Marine, so his resume speaks for itself. But yes, he's pushing for a change. You have to understand too, Biden, who was now under severe criticism for whether he was even mentally capable during his last months in office on the auto pen scandal that is now erupting and being challenged by Department of Justice and Pam Bondi. I really think he's got a compelling story. He's got a good argument, and it's going to appeal to the Gen Zers, which are I think going to be driving the next election a lot more than they have in the past.
Absolutely. Now, but what about Senator Markey, insisting that it is not the age, but it is the age of your ideas that actually matter? Does political longevity automatically suggest stagnation, or can experienced leaders still drive reform and innovation?
I think it's a perfect answer, and it boils down to the leader and his mental capacity and his willingness to accept new ideas. Unfortunately, history has dictated that certain individuals, certain leaders are prone to stay with their their old ideology, and they're less apt to change and adapt to the times.
All right, Alex. Now, the median voter age in many democracies is now under 30, yet we see older politicians, continue to dominate. Why do you think that younger voters often re-elect those older leaders, even while calling for generational change?
Well, it's not so much the generational change. I think the young voters want wisdom, but they want wisdom without the corruption. That's what they're really asking for. And the old guard, the old way of doing things has leaned towards cronyism, favoritism, elitism, depending on what country you're in and how blatant the institutional corruption is ingrained in the society. The younger voters, specifically Gen Zers, are well educated. They grew up with an internet. They're also the most pessimistic generation because they're concerned about where their future is going and the ability to work and have a living.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Alexander van Rugen, for your time and for speaking to us on this.
My pleasure, as always.
It's a pleasure. Well, that's all on Beyond the Continent. So as Seth Moulton takes on Ed Markey in Massachusetts, it's clear that generational battles are a global story. So while young leaders in the U.S. challenge political veterans, youths in Cameroon and Cote d'Ivoire confront entrenched gerontocracies that refuse to let go. What happens when a generation fueled by urgency meets leadership rooted in longevity? So from Boston to Abidjan, the question echoes: who shapes the future and when does the baton finally pass? We'll talk about this and more next. Stay with us.